Today we're going to talk about workload consideration in part 3 of our Should I Shut Down series. A lot of this will be tied into what we spoke about last week with understanding and individualizing what, like if you actually need to shut down or should you possibly focus on something else. And we really want to look at this in a 2 to 3 year cycle to understand what happened last year. So if we're talking about right now, we would look at 2021 to 2022. So we would look back and say, okay, what happened in 2021? And what do we think is going to happen in 2022? This takes us out of that phase of like, oh, I ended my summer ball in July. I can take August off and then get ramped back up in September and play October, November, be good to go. And it's just kind of like haphazardly throwing, not throwing, and really not having a game plan, which is the whole point of doing this series, to understand how important it is to have a game plan based on your individual needs. And again, this goes into your individual needs and throwing programs and takes away the generalizations. We will talk about some generalizations today from the Pitch Smart guidelines that MLB puts out through Dr. James Andrews, and look at some of those suggestions and understand what we need to do with those, but we also need to, again, customize it because not every human being is the same. So we will start with that. Their recommendation for anyone from 13 to 15 year olds, 13 to 18 year olds is 100 innings, IPU, innings pitched, per year. Or a 12-month cycle is how they classify it. So that's their maximum they suggest, and then they would suggest 3 to 4 months off. And that would go back to the shutdown if you for that age group. So again, if we're using that, I think it's a pretty good place to start. If we're looking at the example I used last week, we had a senior who had thrown 100 innings the year before, and a sophomore who had thrown 50 innings the year before. Very different off seasons, right? We agreed with that. And then we're also going to project in next year. This would be their 2021. And then 22, we're looking at this guy possibly throwing 70 innings in the spring. Summer ball is going to probably be a little bit lighter. If he's a Power 5 guy, he's going to go to school and probably be more on a throwing program and not really pitching in the summer. So then he would only pitch in the fall. That's going to be very limited, more inter-squad type stuff. So he's probably going to be at another 20-ish innings for 2022, and that puts him at 90 total. Whereas we have a sophomore who threw 50 in 2021. He's going to be going in junior year, first year in varsity. He is uncommitted. Depending on your program and the strength of it, again, being in Orlando, Florida, seniors take up a majority of the innings unless you are like the Power 5 commit who matures early. So he's probably not going to throw a whole lot on his varsity team. So he might have 15 innings in the spring. He goes into summer travel ball. He gets 30 there, and then he gets probably another 20 in the fall. So again, he's at 45, 65 total for 2022 if we're going to give a brief guesstimate for his workload. So we see that, yeah, it increased some, but he's still not throwing anywhere close to kind of the maximized number. And we have a kid here who, again, needs to develop. Probably if he's uncommitted still, he's probably lacking velocity, secondary pitch, command, one of those things that we spoke about last week. So again, when we look at this and say we have a 2-year block now where we have the total from 2021 right here and the total for 2022 right here, we can now make a better educated guess about what to do. Innings pitched is not the best metric to go by, but it's kind of the most understood. Obviously, if we're going by innings pitched, you could throw 1 inning and throw 25 pitches, or you can throw 1 inning and throw 8 pitches. So obviously they're not created equal. Not to mention that if you go into looking at specifically innings pitched in something like the summer, if you're guest playing on teams, which we definitely don't recommend, maybe you throw 3 innings on Friday, 3 innings on Sunday, and then they play for another team on Tuesday, throw another 3 innings. That's a lot different than spreading those 9 innings out over like a 10-day stretch where you're throwing like every 3rd day or every 4th day. So might not be the best, but definitely something to take in consideration as well. So what do you do with all this information? The idea is to be able to look and say, okay, where am I in my development? Am I 14 to 15, so a JV player, where I'm going to average, and I pitch a decent amount, and I'm going to average 55 innings, we'll say, for the next couple of years. That throwing program, we don't need as much time off for, and we need to use that out of season time to develop. So while we might shut down for a little bit, again, shut down meaning not pick up a baseball at all, it's going to be a lot less amount of time because their clock is ticking to get a college scholarship. And then for this senior, he's obviously going into college. He's going to have more of a set routine here and know what he's getting himself into, and then have a college coach to assist with that, with summer baseball and those sort of things. But he understands that he's thrown 200 innings in 2 years and needs the time off. This guy certainly needs to shut down. So that's going to be a longer break, and he has the ability to start later. He has a spot on the varsity team. He doesn't have to prove himself to the coach. He needs to be ready to go really by like February 15th and be game ready by then. This guy needs to be game ready by January 10th, we said, I think, for travel ball tryouts for the next summer. So again, will we shut this guy down? Possibly. Will we shut this guy down? Absolutely. But we need to stress development, and his clock is ticking, like I said before. It's great to shut down and follow all these rules, but the whole reason of doing these things is to be better at baseball. And if you're using that valuable time that the athlete has to take time off when they need to be developing and they don't get a college scholarship, all these rules don't really matter. The idea for this kid is he wants to play college baseball. That's his main goal in life right now, is to play college baseball. We want to help him get there, and by not throwing a baseball, again, like we talked about last week, very hard to get better at throwing baseball by not throwing baseball. So these rules and considerations are great, but take it on an individual basis. Don't shut down because someone else shuts down, and understand your 2-year window about what's going on with your pitch counts.